Where are you now in workouts?
Well, I did some triceps this morning to get activated, hit the sauna.
Very nice, very nice.
As far as working out, I mean, we scrimmaged last weekend. We're going to scrimmage again this weekend. So, you got bullpens Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday for guys that are throwing Friday, Saturday, Sunday. A lot of live at-bats, a lot of throwing runners on base to create some chaos. Situational stuff as well is extremely important. And, when you scrimmage, it starts to tell you a lot of things you need to work on. And you revert back to all those things you learned about last year that are going to help you, and not just last year, every year. You're trying to get little nuggets and keep implementing them for what these guys need to get better. They're showing us a lot of positive things and also showing us some areas where we need to develop, not just for the players, but for the coaches. And Oregon State, baseball in general, you're just always trying to find ways to get better. So continuing to build up, knowing that, we only have a few more weeks until it's game time, but the objective is making every day really feel like a game. As I hit on last week, energy, enthusiasm, just adding pressure more and more so that when we play game one, we've really already played game one, not just making that first day more than it is.
When you start preparation kind of for that first game of the season, there's no film really, maybe other than maybe some fall late last year,
Yeah.
But when you have a player like Tyler that knows that team very, very well, do you lean on him a little bit to help? I know he said he's been talking to some guys just about who he thinks might be their starter in that game. How do you kind of go about that? Is it harder, or is it kind of like we go out, we play it the way, we adjust?
Well, I like this. I talked to the coaches about this too. I like to spend most of our time studying our players, making sure that they're ready for anything that comes their way. And, that week we'll start diving into our opponents, getting a better understanding of who's on their roster, who are the probables, you name it. And so you can do the deep dive, throw on the snorkel gear and do a deep dive on your opponents. To which at one point I did have snorkel gear in my office just for emphasis on the deep dive. But, there can be little nuggets like that. You're trying to find anything and everything you can. We'll most likely share probables, exchange with other teams on that week as well. But really making sure that your guys are ready to go. It's same thing in the fall. You could be out recruiting at different events. Our priority is keeping our coaching staff here, making sure we're pouring into our guys. That was the promise that was made, is that when you're here, we're going to give everything we can to you to help make you better and make us better. And so I don't really want our guys out and about. I want our staff here making our guys better. And if I'm spending, several hours scouting the opponents, which you should do, I'm also going to create a lot of balance where it's making sure that I'm studying our guys and making sure our guys are ready to go out and perform.
When you have an experience like you did a season ago in Omaha, do you feel like the process is further along at this point where you were a season ago based off the returners and the experiences that they gained? How do you feel like that's kind of looking at this point right
Well, with a smaller roster size than normal and having a handful of new guys, which you're going to have. You're going to have freshmen come in. You're going to have transfers come in as well. A lot of it is getting those guys up to speed. When they are really feeling comfortable in this environment that is their home, the best version of them comes out. They're not swinging to impress. They're swinging the way that they should be swinging. And they're not trying to impress everyone with velocity. They're pitching and throwing with command. And so it takes time to get them comfortable in that situation. I do like where we're at this given time. Obviously, you always want things to be better, but a lot of that is like the main focus right now is getting guys up to speed. Obviously, like what we learned and experienced last year, and we're asking those guys to share some of that wisdom with a lot of the newcomers. And even our kickoff dinner last week, the Diamond Dinner, was incredible. You look at Craig, Hutch, Talt, 3 guys that have been here for 4 years, something that's becoming more and more uncommon, but to turn down potential of professional baseball, to continue to stick it out through here, they got a standing O at that dinner, and as did Singer for returning as well. And all of our other guys felt that, like not only witnessed it, but felt that as well. And I was talking to Brady Casper about this, and he said, I remember at the Diamond Dinner my senior year when I got that like warm round of applause. It really made me feel different about this place and appreciative of everything that I've been through here. So it's kind of cool as these guys, you know, now that we have hot tub, cold tub, sauna, and you go in there and you see these guys sitting down talking, no phones in the training room, no headphones, the amount that they're communicating and sharing some of that wisdom, mentoring each other away from the field as well. It's really cool to see. You know, it's what you want, makes you proud as a parent, you know, puts a little tear in your eye of joy, but there's still a lot more that needs to continue. Yeah.
You getting a sense for offensive identity of this group when they're just replacing as much power as you are from a year ago?
Yeah, I think that the more you see it, I think, granted, the season's coming. I always talk about these different checkpoints. In the fall, there's a bit of excitement. When we do captain's practices, you know, you slowly ease into the coaches being at practice, which creates another level of excitement or perceived pressure. And then you start competing in the fall, which has another step. And so then you take November to calm nerves and learn from what just happened. And they go home for break. They get some work in independently. They come back with more excitement. Then you scrimmage, and then there's more. And then you get into February. I'm already ready for February 1, where everyone's like, all right, now the season's here. And then the first day when we step on the field down in Arizona, that's going to increase it more. After game 1, who started, who didn't start. And so there's all these different checkpoints that pressure or just emotions come into it. And it's constantly like, right now we're in the midst of having some of those meetings, making sure that we know who we are and what we do, establishing a strong identity. I told Talt this a while back. I go, if you go into the season, not saying I'm going to hit 15, 16 home runs. I bet if you think you're going to be a speed, contact, gap-to-gap kind of guy, you're going to hit more than you ever thought you would hit if you're trying to be a power guy and hit 15. And so having the capabilities, we have guys that should be really good at grinding out at bats, creating chaos on the bases. There's a lot of speed. And so I know what our identity probably should be, and it's constantly working to get those guys to believe in it, buy into it, and not feel like they need to do more than that. Especially emphasis on when a runner's on third, right? That guy needs to score more often than not at a high percentage. Sometimes stuff happens, you line out. Or once we do get on base, that guy at first base with how much speed we do have, and it's not just speed, it's usable speed, like intentional speed. And there's some guys that maybe on a 60 time are slower than some of our faster guys. However, their presence on the base can be equally, if not more powerful, because their leads are runner-ish. We always talk about hitter-ish, but runner-ish is a thing too. So Gibson and I were just on the phone earlier today about that when we were out and about. And we're talking about, continuing these conversations with guys to get them excited about being who they are and what they're a part of.
Last year you go to the series, and it should have been, or here locally it was talked about a little bit, but when you got there, then now everyone's focusing on you being an independent and how difficult that trail is and scheduling. Was it any easier this year, putting this year's schedule together, than it was last year?
I don't know. A friend of mine sent me some scripture today, and it just talked about how sometimes the perceived pain that we have is actually such a blessing. And I think about it too. Like I'm taking care of my body on some little ailments, and at first we can consider these things difficult and a lot more work or whatever. But I have a good network around me and faith that reminds me those are all positives, because now if I have to go to the training room now, I get to see the guys more, right? And if you fall, there's other people that are on that level too that you can all build up together. And going through that independent schedule, I'm glad it got recognition and people are talking about it, because I thought the way that our guys handled going through that, so it's good for people to know it's not easy. and then, but also reassuring to know, hey, wow, if they can do it, maybe we can experience and go through perceived hardship with grace and handle it like warriors. So it still requires a ton of effort, a lot of communicating. I built a lot of friends and relationships through talking with other coaches. You had a lot of weeks to fill, and there was a handful of people that were very generous, saying, hey, if nothing comes up, you can come jump in with us and we'll all get games in. It'll be great competition. And so just being creative with it. Maybe it did require more travel, but that's okay. Like instead of looking at it as a negative, this could be a real positive thing. We just spend time in the airport, hotel rooms. Our fans get to travel a little bit too. But it's something that looking forward with, the new pack, how that's going to naturally fill some weeks in the schedule, but there's still a lot of opportunity to schedule many weeks with high level competition.
Did it help or hurt to be a World Series team, a team that got there when you're going after some schedule making with, I don't know, smaller schools or teams that didn't want to face you, or did?
Look forward to every opportunity. I don't think that, I really believe that the path that we chose last year helped us get to where we were, especially with the personnel. Acknowledging it right out the gate, okay, everything that you've experienced before, this is different. This is different than what anyone else has done. And in order to make this happen, these are the things we need to do. And it wasn't just talking about winning games. That takes care of itself, right? That just meant that when we woke up, when we ate, when we dressed to the field, and it even says that on today's schedule, show up to the field like this is game day. I want to see how people are dressing when they're showing up on game day. Show up to the field like you're a big leaguer. If that's where you want to be someday, what does that look like? Because we have to start practicing it now. So it's just kind of starting to highlight a little more of those things. So they're already practicing, showing up to the field, dressing, talking, acting like it's game day. And even this weekend when we scrimmage, small adjustment. Instead of wearing our BP tops, I want uniforms. I want separate dugouts. I want the pregame and everything to look like a game. And even if it's standing for a national anthem, I want our guys to practice that before the game as well, because that's part of the game day routine. How we take in and out, like it has to be with energy and enthusiasm, because you want to win pregame as well. So we talk about winning the day, and the day is not just between the several hour practice slot that we have. So when we show up to practice, I want to know, did we get a good start? Are we in the lead for today? Are we winning right now towards today? And at the end of practice, the day's not over. Are we in a good spot? Sure. But how you finish the day determines if we have a W or not.
Were there teams that you pulled from for scheduling philosophy the last year, this year, and I've seen like for other sports? Like, was there any example, because you were uncharted territory, but were there people whose non-conference philosophies, in order to get to where you have to get to, you put together a resume? Were there, for example, like the UConn women's basketball, because they have to play a certain way in non-conference to achieve what they want resume-wise? Were there other teams, other sports that you pulled from, or are you just trying to figure it all out day to day?
A lot of new situation for me to see it. Trying to look around and learning a lot more about RPI, learning about home versus road versus neutral. Each team that was available to play, also looking at history. What do they have coming forward? Are they going to be successful this year? Do they have a good chance? Trying to get the best opponent possible. And sometimes maybe a team was really successful last year, but it may not shape up. So, and you have a window to do that. You can't just make the schedule right before the season when you really have an idea what their roster and potential looks like. And so you're trying to project, and you see teams that have solid coaching staffs or retention, or that have young prospects that are continuing to work their way up. They're going to have a good team. It's trying to get as many like Q1 and Q2 teams as possible, and I best you can. It doesn't mean those teams are always going to want to play you. And so I do want games. I always want, if you can get 56 regular season games scheduled, I want those games. I don't want to end with 54, 52 or whatever. I want our guys to train, because at the next level, what they want to do, or anything in life, you got to keep waking up day in and day out. do I work 7 days a week? Yep. Yesterday was an off day, and I was still here from 5 a.m. till 6 p.m. Until I went home, and it was my day to cook. So obviously I got local boys on the way home. Which, but it's one of those things. Then you get the conference tournaments. That's one thing that we didn't get last year. And so trying to be ahead of it and get creative. We had our, special weekend of festivities. We scrimmaged all 3 days. We had a video playing. We played the Sandlot so kids can come on the field. We did home run derby and all that stuff. Made it like an all-star weekend. But it kept our guys in shape and ready to go. And sometimes, that's why I like midweek games. It primes our guys as well for the weekend, so you're staying with it. Knowing yesterday was an off day, the day after an off day is usually slower than it should be. The second day, that's why I like Wednesday midweek games versus Tuesday. Take Monday off, Tuesday's game, you're like, are they going to be sharp? Because in baseball or in life, a lot of it's routine, and when you have those off days, it can be a little more bumps in the road. And so, but I have a good feeling. So it's teaching our guys, even though it's an off day, it doesn't mean sit on the couch all day. It means move around. It means go out and take a nature walk, man. Go bowling with your buddies or something like that. Yeah, crush your homework, but there's still so many other things to do, so your body just doesn't turn into goo.
Talking to Edwards before, he was a guy that, kind of had a minimum role at the start of the year. You called upon him to save the day at the end. Just how much does that you see that kind of give him a confidence boost, and how much growth have you seen from him until now where he's expected to be a big part of the staff?
It's wild. So initially we think minimal role because of innings pitched, right? But the message that we're relaying to him and so many other guys is the role he had, whether you're on the mound or not, is huge. And so the way he practiced, the way, he heard what was really going on and what he needed to do to get better, and the way he fought to get better and be a great teammate the whole time. There are guys like Paul Vasquez who didn't get a ton of in-game opportunities that we see on the field and in the stat sheet, but what Paul did day in and day out was, I really want to play. I'm going to flush that because that doesn't bring anything to the team if I show frustration. So I'm going to sit there and work my butt off, and I'm going to pour into my teammates. And now granted, I didn't always stand next to Paul in the dugout because of how much he was yelling and bringing energy. I had to I need to think right now, so I'm going to step away. And we have a lot of passionate people, which is phenomenal, but it's, it can be a lot of noise if you're trying to figure out what you're going to do 3 innings, 4 innings down the road. But in the case of Zed, Mr. Zach Edwards, the way he handled the non-game time put him in a situation that everyone trusted him, say, well, this is a really tough spot right here. You know who can probably handle this, if anybody? Zach. And because he has punch-out stuff. He worked his butt off. And so when we see someone take the field, no one really sees everything that goes into that one moment of what that young man or any of those guys do to get in that situation. We just see, did he get the bunt down or not? Did he strike the guy out or not? And a lot of times you can do all the prep, and all the prep really does is gives you an opportunity to be successful more often than not. And that's why, I don't get overly upset or mad if we fail in one given moment, because what got those guys in that moment was the evidence of working their butts off for so stinking long. Gave them that opportunity. There's no guarantees in it, but the work allows you to have more opportunities than not.
Thanks.